Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I'm so excited to be back, and I want to thank all of you for your prayers and messages that you sent in regards to my surgery. If you're not aware, I came down last minute with acute appendicitis and was rushed to the ER. They removed my appendix, and now I'm back and recovering here on YouTube with you guys. So thank you for all of that. But with that, so much is happening in the news. The IMF and the World Health Organization, as some of you know, they have been giving out aid money for the coronavirus pandemic. However, this aid money comes with certain conditions. Not only that, but there is a report that I want to show you that shows 147 super entities that basically control a good portion of not only the United States of America, but the entire globe. And they are literally the ones calling the shots. But let's start first with this article here on zerohedge.com. World Bank IMF exposed COVID aid conditional on imposing extreme lockdowns and curfews. GreatGameIndia.com exposed World Bank coronavirus aid comes with conditions for imposing extreme lockdowns, reveals Belarus's president. Huge foreign loans are given to sovereign nations by the World Bank, IMF, and the like. But the conditions that come attached to these loans are seldom told by governments to their citizens. A recent case in Belarus has exposed the conditions laid out by these agencies for loans being provided for COVID-19. The president of Belarus has exposed the World Bank coronavirus aid with conditions for imposing extreme lockdown measures to model their coronavirus response on that of Italy, and even changes the economic policy, which he refused as being unacceptable. In other words, the World Bank and the IMF, which I'm pretty sure the United States of America has been accepting, actually I'm 100% sure, the US here has been accepting money from central banks, which would be the likes of, well, I don't know, the IMF and others, right? But basically they are saying, here's billions of dollars to your country. In return, shut your country down, lock it down, impose certain mandates on your people, and then we'll give you the money. In other words, destroy your economy so globalists can rule, but we'll give you billions of dollars to fill your personal pocket. Screw the rest of the population. Screw your country and who has businesses and jobs. You're going to shut them down, and we'll give you billions of dollars. This is exactly what has been exposed by the president there in Belarus. Now, this is a couple of months ago that it was exposed, but I think it's very critical, or about a month ago, but I think it's critical in light of what's going on, because we see these massive lockdowns taking place all across the country. We know that they're killing off our businesses, and these were originally told, oh, we're just gonna do it for 30 days. We're gonna close down for 30 days. That turned into 2 months, to 3 months, to 4 months. Now, 6 months into this pandemic, we're still shut down. And let me tell you something, they don't plan on letting up until maybe an entire year and a half to 2 years. We still got a long way to go. We're 6 months in, people, and they don't plan on letting this up until there's a quote unquote vaccine, which would offer them money in their pockets, right? But thankfully, the president of Belarus there didn't implement or take the money, nor did he implement these measures on his people. But hey, it seems like pretty much a majority of the other countries did, including the United States of America. But that's not all. He's not the only one exposing these globalist frauds for who they are. Take a look at this article on GreatGameIndia.com, published May 2020. Tanzania kicks out WHO after goat and papaya samples came back COVID-19 positive. Of course, the tests are a bunch of, well, they're coming back all kinds of ways. Even Bill Gates himself admitted that they were, well, not that accurate or not that effective as they'd hoped they'd be. But here we have the president of Tanzania turning it away because of some tests. Here's another here. TheGuardian.com published May 2020. Burundi expels WHO coronavirus team as elections approach. Officials say that health minister has accused the UN of unacceptable interference, and they're talking about interference in their election. Here's another, VanityFair.com, and you guys know about this one, April 2020. Trump defunds WHO in the middle of a global pandemic. Thankfully, President Trump defunded WHO here in the United States of America. However, we still have many globalist agencies like the IMF and the World Bank that are digging their hands here in the United States of America and crashing our economies. But that's not all. In light of everything that's going on, I came across an article that shows there are 147 super entities, or basically mega corporations or central bankers, if you will, who are ruling the world and calling the shots. Take a look at this article here on ZeroHedge.com. The global elite have far more control over us than most people would dare to imagine. And I agree with that, especially in light of what we saw with the pandemic. And he goes on, I would submit that corporations are the primary vehicle that the elite use to control our lives. In fact, many global corporations are now larger and more powerful than most national governments. And collectively, the network of global corporations that dominate the planet is far more larger and far more powerful than any single national government. That means these global corporations collectively have more power than many of the governments around the world. That's a huge statement. Want to know why we're in the mess that we're in right now? It's because of these kinds of agency, and we allowed it. But the article goes on. A number of years ago, a remarkable study was conducted that closely examined the interconnecting relationships of major corporations all over the world. That study discovered that a network of 1,318 enormous companies dominated the global economy. And it also found that 147 colossal corporations at the core of that web formed a super entity that controlled 40% of the entire network. And here's the actual quote from the study. Each of the 1318 had ties to 2 or more other companies. On average, they were connected to about 20 companies. What's more, although they represented 20% of the global operating revenues, the 1318 appeared to collectively be owned through their shares the majority of the world's large blue chip and manufacturing firms. The real economy representing a further 60% of global revenues. When the team further untangled the web of ownership, it found much of it to be tracked back to super entity of 147 more tightly knit companies. All of their ownership was held by other members of the super entity that controlled 40% of the total wealth in the network. In effect, less than 1% of the companies were able to control 40% of the entire network, says Glatterfield. Most were financial institutions, and here's some that are in the top 20, which include Barclays Bank, JP Morgan Chase and Company, and the Goldman Sachs Group. These are many central bankers calling the shots, and it goes on. Of course, at the very top are ultra-wealthy individuals that own and control the gigantic corporations that make up the super entity. This is why our major corporations all seem to have the same values. At the very top, their ownerships are all interlinked, and so trying to fundamentally change the culture of these massive institutions is nearly impossible. In other words, the reason that we have all these companies and organizations that seem to have the same value and all go off at the same time, right? Oh, we're all going to wear masks at the same time, for example, or we're all going to fill in the blank, right? It's because they're all directed by one agency, one corporation, one mega bank, one CEO who is usually a liberal, right? Or because they're globalists, they're communist, globalist. Let me rephrase that. That use liberalism, right? But they're at the top telling all their agencies, their 20 agencies that own 20 agencies that own, right? And they say, you're going to follow this directive. And they do. This is why all the businesses seem to think alike, right? It's all a part of what they are doing. But corporations are owned by the global dominant elite, and they are calling the shots with this coronavirus pandemic. And it is so far time that we start waking up to this corruption. I mean, we have to think about it. These central bankers offered money to countries all across the globe, including the United States of America, but it came with restrictions. You must lock down. You must mandate. You must fill in the blank. You must do what we say. Screw your businesses over. Let them fall to socialism, because that's what happens. Big corporations will survive a pandemic. Small businesses will collapse, and they're already collapsing by the thousands and tens of thousands right now in the U.S. That was the end game, and that's what they did because they want a poor mass over which the millionaires and billionaires and central bankers and I'm talking about billions and billions of dollars here at the top, can control the United States of America, and that's exactly what they're doing. It's high time we bring attention to this. Anyhow, please don't forget to check out my partner at agewithlisa.com. Right now, you can get this Ageless Body BioTrust pill, and this thing has done amazing wonders for my skin and just kind of given it that overall youthful appearance. And right now, they've got an amazing discount at agewithlisa.com. So get on over there and check it out. Again, that's agewithlisa.com.